Hello, everyone. Welcome to PowerTalk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. It's a very special day for us. We are recording a 100 episode, and who better guest to have on our platform than the podcaster and founder of PodMatch, Alex Sanfilippo. Alex, it's an honor to have you. Welcome to PowerTalk Show.
Navin, thank you so much for what you do here, and thank you for having me. And congratulations on 100 episodes. It's actually very rare that any podcaster makes it that far. I believe it's just over 5% of people who ever start a podcast ever reach that point. So congratulations. And again, I'm honored to be here. So thank you for including me in this.
Thank you so much, Alex. And Alex, you and Podmatch part of our journey, and I want to talk about it as we move further. But I want to start the conversation as a fellow podcaster. What was the inspiration in founding Podmatch?
Yeah, it actually came out of me really falling in love with the podcasting industry. So I was a podcaster myself, and when I started, the tech was a little bit different. I started just talking into my phone. Like that was it had like a I think it was called voice memos at that point on an iPhone is what I was using. And so I was just talking into my phone, and I figured out how to post it on Apple. Spotify didn't even have anything. Amazon didn't have anything yet. YouTube wouldn't accept podcasts. So it was really just like I posted it to Apple and hoped for the best. But along that journey, actually really, once again, I fell in love with podcasting. And it wasn't just like the art of podcasting, it was the people I was meeting. So people that were coming on as guests, other podcasters, the opportunity to meet. And I did struggle to find guests for my podcast, but I didn't build PodMatch for myself. What I actually did was I started speaking at the podcasting conferences. And I'll never forget, it was actually Orlando, Florida, the beginning of 2020, before the world shut down. When there's about 2,000 people there. When I was getting off stage, I just told everyone before I got off, I said, hey, if anyone's willing to just talk to me for 1 or 2 minutes, I'd love the opportunity to meet you. And a bunch of people lined up. And I'm really grateful for that because I started asking them, like, first off, I gave everyone a hug. I'm a hugger. So I gave everyone a hug. And then I just said, like, hey, is there anything you're struggling with in podcasting? And I wrote down their name, their email address, and what they told me they were struggling with. And I kept on hearing the same thing. I'm having trouble finding the right guest for my show. Not just anyone who will be a guest, the right guest, the one that's a good fit that my audience is going to love to hear from. In addition to that, it's very cumbersome. There's a lot of administrative work that has to go in between. And so I kind of went home and whiteboarded this whole idea out, and keeping the story kind of short, I basically realized, okay, 100 people at this conference told me the same thing. And it's something I struggle with as well, finding the right guest and doing so in a really efficient way. And when I ended up writing down the whiteboard in the bottom right-hand corner, I just said, like a dating app, but instead of connecting people for dates, connecting people for podcast interviews. And that's ultimately what PodMatch is. It's a tool that connects people, lets them message in the platform. They never have to exchange an email if they don't want to. We simplify the process of bringing the right people together. But the whole idea of it just came out of me finding a problem that a group of people that I really cared about, was passionate about, were struggling with and coming up with the solution. And that's ultimately what created the launch of PodMatch.
Absolutely, and thank you so much, Alex, for sharing that with us. So, when you started building Podmatch, what sort of feedbacks and iterations did you do to make what we have the platform today? And how do you still collect feedbacks and improve your platform?
Yeah. Navin, I love this question. I don't think anyone has ever brought up a question like this before. So thank you. It's actually a gift to get to answer something like this because it's super important. Like you don't build something and then just forget about it, right? Like you have to continuously improve and you've got to get feedback along the way. So when I had that idea for PodMatch, it was March. The dates get a little blurry. Sorry. March 10th, 2020. I called 2 business partners, one being my wife and another one being Jesse Hunter, who he's a developer, and Alicia is a great operations person. So like I was like, hey, the 3 of us, we can work together. We've all got good complementing skills. This is the idea. Let's build this as fast as possible and then give it to those 100 people that told me they were struggling with it, right? Other people I talked to at that conference, and just see like, hey, does this work? And so we launched on June 15th, 2020. So just over 3 months later, we brought it into launch. It didn't have a logo. There was typos everywhere. Every page took like 10 seconds to load. But my question was, is this solving the problem that you said you have? And so that was our alpha launch with 100 people on it. We brought some guests in as well, just to see, does this whole thing work? And sure enough, people said, yes, it works, but you need this, but you need that, right? And of course, we ended up getting a logo, fixing typos. The website's very fast now. But what we were looking for is like, okay, well, what is it not doing that you think it needs to do? And so we just started listing those 100 people. And over time, those 100 people turned into 1,000. It turned into 10,000. And we just kept on asking the same questions. Still to this day, the way we collect feedback is when someone takes an action that we think warrants us learning something from it. So to kind of break that down, the most simple version is if somebody leaves the platform, we send an exiting email being like, hey, sorry, PodMatch didn't work for you, or sorry to see you go. Can you just give us real quick, tell us what we can do to make it better for somebody who's going to use it in the future? And we just ask that. And we give people the opportunity to respond and say, hey, I left because I hit my goal, right? Or like I left because it was too slow or whatever it might be, right? Like whatever we can learn from that. We keep a log of everything we hear from people. And that's just one example, by the way. When people have their 100th interview, we're typically like, hey, 100 interviews, like, how is this working so well for you? And we can kind of figure out, okay, this is what's working. And we keep this log of everything. And every 120 days, we sit down as a team and we go through all those things to see, okay, like we've heard this 50 times in the last 120 days. We should do something about this, right? Whether it's an improvement, an enhancement, a correction, something we need to get rid of, like all those things come into that. So we keep this feedback loop always open, always going. I consider myself a working founder. I'm a frontline founder, which to me just means I'm there for the conversation. People can email me whenever they want, give me ideas. I'm all for the feedback because we know that if we don't continuously improve, we're not really serving the people that we claim to be helping at the highest level.
It's amazing. I want to ask a particular question in regards to the affiliate program and what went into the thought process of paying to the host. So, what went into that inspiration?
So back in 2021, so a year, let's say about a year and a half after we had launched PodMatch, I started realizing a trend. And it was hosts were leaving. And so they would sign up, they'd use the platform, then they would disappear. They would cancel their account. And I remember telling Jesse and Alicia, the other two co-founders, I was like, hey, like we got a problem. This isn't working for podcasters. Like we got to figure this out. And so what we did is we just added a way for people to book time with me if they were canceling their account. Or if they were on I think we emailed everybody at that point and just said, hey, will you give Alex 10 minutes of your time? And I'll never forget it, Navin. This was actually funny, but also kind of terrifying. In one day, I had 25 calls scheduled from the time I woke up until I was done. And I will never do that again. But I wanted to learn as quickly as I could. And what I figured out was people weren't leaving PodMatch. They were quitting their podcast altogether. So they were canceling every subscription. They were shutting everything down. And so I was like, okay, so it's not actually a PodMatch problem. It's a podcasting problem. And so it went far beyond us. So I started asking different questions, right? Not like, why are you leaving PodMatch? Now I was like, why are you stopping your podcast? What's the issue? And what I continuously heard was, well, first off, there's the expectations of the results, right? So if we don't have the right expectation of what we're doing, it's very easy to get discouraged. And a lot of people were getting discouraged because they felt like it wasn't hitting the way they wanted to. And so, and that's fine. But the people that were saying I was quitting for a specific reason was the financial aspect. Like, hey, my family, just like we can't really afford it anymore. Like it's not a lot of money, but like it's part of the budget. And my family I can't really do it right now. My spouse doesn't like my significant other, whatever it might be. So it was very heavily financially driven, even though on paper it might not have been like as much as some other hobbies out there. It was still enough that the family or the person themselves said, I can't fight this anymore. I've got to just stop it. And so I realized every company wants a few dollars from podcasters. But the reality is there's no podcasting industry without podcasters. So when they join, everyone's like, give me money. It's like, hold on now. We need them for the podcasting industry to exist. And so we made a commitment at that point to do what we call our pod value initiative. This is kind of like a long time plan we came up with. But basically what we do is we pay podcast hosts half of our profit. So we take our profit of PodMatch, we split it in half, and we split half with, we half keep the lights on and keep us fed, right? So we can keep on doing this. The other half goes to all the podcasters that use PodMatch. We kind of do like a split. And if someone is curious on that, look up Pod Value Initiative. You can see like all the technical details of how it works pretty easily. But the idea was just like, hey, can we somehow be part of the solution here, not the problem? So since then, we pay podcasters who use the platform. If they book a guest on PodMatch, they're getting a cut. They're getting a commission, an affiliate commission that they earn just by doing that every single time they are. Because we consider people that are on our platform as podcast hosts, they're part of our community. They're members of this thing. We want to make sure that they're part of the profit that's coming into it.
I see there's a hosting. You do a distribution for some podcast hosts which are part of your platform. And when I look at the statistics, I am getting viewers, listeners, streams, downloads from PodMatch. What magic have you done? Like, I see like Apple, Spotify are getting viewership from PodMatch.
Yeah, this is our newest initiative that I'm very excited about. After the financial side of things, the next thing that comes up for podcasters and maybe why they quit or why they get a little bit discouraged, it might not be the reason they quit, but at least some discouragement is the fact that they're not really getting listeners as quickly as they want. And I think that you might actually be a pretty good marketer. So you're an exclusion to this. But for most podcasters, they start podcasting not because they're marketers, but because they have a message they want to share. And what I've found to be the sad reality in podcasting is really good marketers that might not have much value to share. I'm not trying to be rude by saying that. They're really good at growing a podcast, even though their show might not be good. But the flip side, a really good communicator, really good podcaster, someone passionate might not be a good marketer. So it's harder for them to grow their show. And so we've got this like weird equation here of like, I'm good at getting people to listen, but I'm not good at the content, and vice versa. Flip that, right? And so we just decided, like, hey, can we somehow help the people that are passionate? They have a purpose. They're good podcasters. Can we help them find their listeners? Like, we can connect guests and hosts for interviews. Can we connect podcast episodes and listeners as well? Is there a way we can do that? And so in the background, we decided to do is we use two methods for this. One, we always try to bring ideal guests to listen to a podcast before they end up being a guest on it, which we found actually works really well. And what happens is people are like, "Oh, I'd be a great guest for this podcast." They listen and they're like, "This is a really good show. I'm actually just going to be a listener to this. I might be a guest, but I'm for sure going to be a long-term listener." So we bring people that way, but also we've done a really good job of optimizing the PodMatch profiles for SEO, leveraging a high domain authority. We've also done a good job getting it indexed by all the AI models as well. So all the large language models also know PodMatch profiles really well. So when someone is searching for a podcast and they type in what they're looking for in a search engine in one of the AI models, we're able to automatically be in there suggesting a podcast for the host themselves. So that way we're bringing listeners to the podcaster. And that's just something we do on PodMatch. Like some people join, they're like, whoa, I didn't know this was going to grow my podcast, right? I thought it connected guests and hosts for interviews. It does. But in the background, we're also helping you monetize and grow your show because those are the big pain points. And so that's kind of like that's our newest thing. We're still learning how to do it well. And I think we're starting to get some traction, but we'll keep on working that. And hopefully it turns into a real big benefit for hosts long term.
Where do you see the industry is heading with AI and all these platforms coming in and putting it together?
Yeah, first off, it's gotten much easier. I mean, even from when you started, like the tools are changing so rapidly. Like there's no more days of needing to sit in your cell phone and then figure out how to somehow get it on Apple, right? Like that doesn't exist anymore. The tools are getting better. It's getting easier to be a creator. When that happens, a few things happen along as a kind of a residual effect of that. And one, it means more people will be in podcasting. More people are enabled to do this. I think that's okay because it's got a lower barrier to entry, but also it makes it easier for people to quit. Example, when I started podcasting, it took me so long to figure it out that when I finally started podcasting, there was kind of no way I was going to quit, right? Like I was all in. It was like a long-term investment. It took me forever. And so I think a lot of people now, they get into podcasting, it's so much easier that they want to quit as fast as they start because like, I didn't really put any effort in anyway, right? So it's okay. So what that's going to do is enable the serious people, the podcasters that are for real about it, to be able to get traction much faster and much more long term without having to spend so many hours working on the process. And I think that that's actually a really good thing. And so there's so many more opportunities for people that are serious to stick with it. Again, to do so without having to burn themselves out or anything like that. So as the tools get better, I think that we can get better. And if you think about it, one independent creator part-time can do, like if you have a full-time job, I think that's great. Some of the best podcasters I know have full-time jobs. But if you're just like podcasting on the side, you can do what at one point took a team of people to do. Like 10, 15 full-time people would be trying to do what one person is capable of doing now. I think that's a really exciting time to be in this space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Alex, I have one particular question to ask you. At PodMatch, what is the ratio of podcaster guest brands and hosts? Have you looked into that data?
Yeah. So on PodMatch, we fight really hard to keep it about 50-50. We like to keep it at that. And typically, we've always got a little bit more guests than hosts. Guests kind of flock to PodMatch because think about it, like how many people want to share their message versus how many people want to host a podcast. Like it's kind of, it's out of balance from the way from the world standpoint. As a matter of fact, we track it. And right now the ratio is there are, I believe it's 47 guests to every one host, not on PodMatch, just in general. And if someone hearing this, if you go to podmatch.com/report, that's where we kind of track all those numbers. We track them every single month. But 47-to-1 ratio, like that's a lot, right? And so for us, we fight really hard. Once again, we're always after hosts, always trying to meet hosts and bring them to the platform. Guests just kind of show up, which I'm grateful for, but we really do our best to try to keep that 50-50 ratio. But no matter what, it seems like the guests slightly outpace the host, which I guess is okay because multiple guests go on one podcast, right? But that's kind of that's a battle. It's an ongoing fight for us. So we're always looking for more solutions, more ways to be able to get in front of more hosts faster than we are the guests.
And what would be your recommendation to all the brands out there? Should they have their own podcast?
I think so, but I will say this first though, not if it's going to hinder your business. Like if you're positioned where like you have a marketing team or you've got the capacity to do it, do it. But it's kind of like having another wing of your business. Like it is a lot of work to get it done right. And so I always tell people like don't have a podcast for the sake of having a podcast. Do it because there's capacity for it, one, but two, a vision for it. Like what is it going to do? The best example I can give is at one point I was looking into SMS marketing. So text message marketing. I knew nothing about it. So I went to a podcast. I found a podcast about it. And guess what? They happen to also have a software that you could sign up with and that you could actually use their SMS marketing tool. Well, I learned how to do it from their podcast. I immediately went and signed up for them, considering nobody else because they already helped me with the education. That's the power of something like this, right? Having a podcast can bring people to your brand and you can develop that know, like, and trust with them really, really fast. And so I think every brand should, if you have capacity and there's a real plan for it. If not, maybe skip it for now, right? Until you can find a way to work it in.
Absolutely. Alex, as an entrepreneur, you were a podcaster, but now I would say you are an entrepreneur and a founder. What sort of challenges and differences do you see as a podcaster and as an entrepreneur? What has changed?
Yeah. So I guess the stakes always raise, like, right? They're always rising the more you get into. So I still love my podcast. I'm still part of it, but I play a very small role. I think there's 6 people that have a bigger role than I do on the podcast. So it's just like I still do a little bit of content. I get to do 2 interviews a quarter and I get to do 1 solo episode, but the rest of it I'm not involved in it at all. And it's kind of like bittersweet because it's like, great, I'm running the business side of things, which does demand more attention. But my baby, my podcast, I feel like I've kind of let it go a little bit, right? So there's that element of it. It's like, where do you need to spend your time? The podcast can be automated in many ways. And because of that, it's more of an administrative task for us. So I kind of had to push that off. The vision, the future, the direction, analyzing feedback from people as a founder on the software side of things, that's where I feel my time is best spent. And that's what has the biggest return on investment for the people that I know that I serve, which once again are podcasters, right? So for me, I realize that like it's a lot more work doing the business side than the podcast side. A lot more can be delegated there, a lot less on the other side if you really want to stay involved as a founder. So for me, I'm just kind of always striking that balance and making sure that I'm involved on both sides because one does help the other, right? Like the podcasting wing is our education. And from our education, we get feedback. And that's what helps us decide what we do on the software side. So I kind of done my best to keep them together. But I'd say the biggest thing I've learned is just making sure that you properly balance them and figure out where someone else can handle something that doesn't hurt the reputation of the brand, right? Whether that's a podcast or a company. Like where can Alex not be involved that doesn't affect anything negatively at all? If it can, then find a way to delegate that.
Absolutely. And what is your biggest challenge for growth, Alex, right now?
So connecting with podcast hosts. I mentioned a few minutes ago, right, that we try to keep that 50-50 ratio of guest to host. We have guests show up so fast, which again, I'm grateful for because we don't do any marketing to guests. They're always showing up because they're realizing, hey, this platform works. I think a lot of them make promises that they can't deliver on. So people show up to us, which is great. So for me, I'm always looking for more podcast hosts. But the reality is there's actually not a whole lot of people who podcast, which might sound crazy. I know there's a big top line number, but like this is 100 episodes for you, Navin, and like that's incredible. But again, almost nobody ever makes it that far. And to me, like I didn't start getting real results as a podcaster until I hit 100 episodes. And so like finding podcasters is really tough, but we are always looking for more ways. We trust our members to bring people using their affiliate links and stuff like that. It's working well, but I'd say that is like the biggest pain point is always like, hey, where do we find more people that are serious and want to podcast long term?
That's absolutely true. Because I believe at some point, as you said, if there is no incentive, if they don't see any financial gain, they might lose doing it, right? Alex, what is your vision for the next 5, 6 years? What are you looking at? Where are you heading?
Yeah, I don't know if I can give a 5 to 6 year vision. I've never been good at that. Like I've always tried, and no matter what, it never ends up where I want it or where I think it'll go. It's typically better, which I'm thankful for. But I'll give you the next 1 to 2 years because I think I can give that more realistically. I'm seeing a big turn in the podcasting, actually the creator economy at large. Like not even podcasting, creator economy at large. We're talking YouTube, blog, social media people that are doing indie films, like all those things. We're seeing this big shift to being community driven. What I mean by that is we're realizing that people want to be part of something. They don't just want to be spectators anymore. The people that are on the outside, they want to be brought in somehow. And that's why we're seeing this big rise in, like, example, somebody I know, he just crowdfunded a movie that he wanted to create. He has a following and he did a really good job, like promoting it, but people wanted to be part of it. And they don't want to just give money. They want to give money and also be like, cool, can I get something that I can share with people, right? And I'm seeing it's the same in the podcasting space. And so for many people, they're realizing like, oh, my listeners, they want to be involved somehow. They want a place that they can commune together. They want a place they can commune with me. They want to be mentioned on the podcast, right? Like they want some form of involvement. So for me, the shift I'm seeing the next 1 to 2 years and that we're going to be making is how do we make community the focal point of what we do? And so like, I'll give you some inside information here because it's not out yet, but we're about to launch a CRM, very simple CRM inside of PodMatch just to help people keep up. So like if you interviewed somebody 6 months ago on PodMatch, it'll come up as a reminder. Hey, you haven't talked to Alex in 6 months. Why don't you reach out? We're just making it really simple, really easy to remember, like, hey, community and communication, that is key in making this podcasting thing work long term. And so you build real lasting relationships. And that's ultimately what we're finding people in this space are starting to look for.
I would like to ask this from my fellow podcasting community. What one piece of advice would you like to give to a podcast host?
Be creative. If you're a podcast host, be creative. And what I mean by that is don't just follow the status quo of what a successful show looks like. I think that too many of us as podcasters, we look at the top 100 podcasts in the charts. Wherever you look at your charts, they're all basically the same shows. We look at those and say, I've got to do that to achieve what they have. And the reality is they didn't get there by following somebody else's model. They got there by being creative. And I find that those of us that can figure out our own creative way of producing something that we want to produce to serve somebody that we know we can serve, and again, doing so in a creative way that seems maybe some unconventional at the very least, right? Different than what other people have done, it really makes us stand out. And so I'm not saying do anything like totally weird or off the wall, but find the little elements of creativity that lets your personality be kind of peppered into your podcast. And when you do that, it attracts a different group of people because people say, this is different and I like this person. I like the way they're doing it. That's my advice. Be creative with what you're creating. And I think it will serve people on a higher level.
Alex, it was wonderful to have you on our 100th episode. It was very special, and a huge shout out to what you are doing and building with PodMatch. Thank you so much to you and the whole PodMatch team.
Thank you again, Navin. Congratulations on 100 episodes, and thank you for having me.